Hello, Angela Alston with Angela Alston Astrology. Today we are going to talk about, let me share my screen here, what's coming up this week. There's actually a lot happening this week, so I'm excited to get into it. And let's go from slideshow from the beginning. All right, so we're unlocking the creative potential of this week, September 17th to the 23rd, 2023. Before I get started with what some of the Astro-Highlights are this week, I want to invite you to contact me with your relationship question for my upcoming podcast. And so this is a opportunity for you to get a free horary reading if your question's chosen, and it will be part of the podcast. So when you email me at angelaAlstonAstrology@gmail.com with the subject podcast. So I know that this isn't just a regular horary question. And for folks who are new to horary, you do not need to have your birth date or your partner's birth date. So it's a little sort of simpler to pose the question. And if it's chosen, I would love to feature you on my upcoming podcast this fall. So the creative potential of this week, where are the planets? Well, the sun is in Virgo until the very end of the week. It's traveling from 24 degrees, 8 minutes Virgo, and enters Libra on September 23rd. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. I am smiling so broadly because this marks the beginning of fall here in the Northern Hemisphere, which is just an absolutely gorgeous and special time of year. The moon is starting the week at 18 degrees, 46 minutes Libra, moving to 20 degrees, 8 minutes Capricorn. It will be hitting its first quarter mark, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Mercury is now direct, moving right along in Virgo from 8 degrees, 10 minutes to 13 degrees, 20 minutes. Venus is in Leo, traveling from 15 degrees, 19 minutes to 19 degrees, 2 minutes. Mars is in Libra, traveling from 13 degrees, 26 minutes to 18 degrees, 3 minutes. Jupiter is in Taurus, retrograde, so it's retraveling 15 degree, 18 minutes to 14 degrees, 56 minutes this week. And Saturn is also retrograde in Pisces, traveling from 2 degrees, 18 minutes to 1 degree, 51 minutes. Pisces. So 4 things to talk about this week. We're going to go in order of occurrence, and that's the T-square between the moon, Venus, and Jupiter. The sun entering Libra on September 22nd, 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. So almost the 23rd. The 23rd for folks who are Central and Eastern time. Jupiter transiting the eclipse degree, and a grand Earth trine between Mercury, Jupiter, and the moon. So Jupiter is implicated in a lot of what's going on this week. So let's get right into it. There's a T-square with Jupiter, Venus, and the moon on September 19th, 3:14 a.m. and 6:14 a.m. So 3:14 a.m. Pacific time, 6:14 a.m. Eastern time. T-squares are filled with tension. They're formed by 3 planets implicated traditionally, unless there's other planets that are very close in the story. And 2 of the planets will be in square. Well, 2 pairs of squares, I should say. And here we have Jupiter and Venus, 1 square. And this is a square that we have that's hit 3 times. We have a lot of experience with this square. Venus, Moon in square. And then the Moon and Jupiter in opposition. So you'll see that this is the 2 benefics. The greater benefic, Jupiter, the lesser benefic, Venus. Jupiter is retrograde. Venus is now direct, not quite out of her shadow phase yet, but still moving direct. And the Moon down here has just come out of the Via Combusta. So it has been in a fiery, tension-filled place, and is just coming out of that. Venus Moon squares tend to indicate an internal tension. Very often it's between what you want, what you desire, and what you actually need. Your desiring nature is in a square aspect with what your lunar nature, what your emotional needs are. This can manifest in a lot of different ways with Moon, Venus. It can be patterns in relationships where you see that your desiring nature, your sexual nature, who you're attracted to, who you want to be with in that way, is not really who's good for you. It can be in your acquiring nature. Venus is often your material wants, and that is not in accordance with what you actually need as a person. It's this sort of fool's gold, going after things that don't actually ever fulfill you. And with Jupiter involved, this tension can really feel big. It can be amplified in a way which can be very uncomfortable. Moon Scorpio can also be quite ruthless in going after what it wants. Scorpio is a fertile sign. The moon is very fertile in a water sign. But Scorpio tends to do things in the dark. So there can be an underhandedness and an emotional ruthlessness. One of the things that worries me about this, you might say, oh, it's happening in the middle of the night, people are going to sleep through it. Well, we're going to be dealing with it for, the few days leading up, and then a couple days afterwards. And the moon and Jupiter are very close to the eclipse degrees from last May. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So this might be a continuation of some themes that began in your life around the time of the eclipse. Moon and Jupiter were deeply implicated. Of course, it was a lunar eclipse. and Jupiter was very close, as we'll look. It's very close to where the sun's degree was back then. So there could be, the bright side of this, if there is a bright side, is that this aspect is sometimes called the achievement aspect. It creates a pressure cooker situation. And it could be that you completely commit to achieving whatever the Venus is representing, because Venus here is the linchpin. It is at the focus of the squares. And I mean, Venus in Leo has been a huge ride for people this summer, going retrograde, squaring Jupiter. This, I think, yesterday, maybe even today, is the third exact square. And then it's moving into a place of real tension. So whatever has been going on, it's reaching a kind of boiling point. And that will be exact again on September 19th. And it's gonna feel big. So I would invite you to look at your life, kind of do a personal review and see what was happening for you in early May, because this week is going to kind of rethread that needle. So the moon phase for this week is the first quarter moon. And this is picking up on some of that tension, that lunar tension on the 19th, when the moon was involved in the T-square, and carrying it for the next 3 days. First quarter moons tend to be a time of crisis, but it's a productive crisis, and crises often are. It's a time to push forward, to remove obstacles, and to deal with the pressures of manifesting, whatever that means for you at this time in your life and in this particular lunar cycle. It's an opportunity for crisis, for a dynamic adjustment in the cosmic dance. And so again, that is September 22nd, 12:31 p.m. exact for PST, Pacific time. And then on September 22nd as well, but actually, very close to the 23rd, at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, 2:59 Eastern time, the sun enters Libra. Now, Libra is a tropical sign, which means a turning point in the year, the fall equinox. And so this is when the sun crosses the celestial equator going south. At the time of the equinox, light and dark is in perfect balance. And then we will be leaning into the dark. The amount of light that we get in the northern hemisphere will be decreasing daily. The night will be extending nightly. The fall equinox is a time of harvest, of gratitude for what the solar principle has given us this past season, both in terms of our own life force and then very materially in terms of harvest, the fruits of the earth. And so this is September 22nd, going into the 23rd, is that time of perfect balance and the beginning of fall. And so whatever the Virgo story has been for you, this week signals the end. And it's the beginning, the opening of a new chapter, a new season in your life and in the world. And so on the 23rd is a big day, is a very big day. Jupiter is going to be transiting the eclipse point on September 23rd at 9:54 a.m. Pacific time. Now here we have the chart of the eclipse, the lunar eclipse on May 5th, 2003. And you'll see the exact eclipse point is 14 degrees, 58 minutes. In the eclipse story, we have Uranus and Mercury. So they play a very important role in what this eclipse is bringing to the world. Eclipses tend to be fairly dramatic in terms of what happens, what an eclipse brings about, tends to be irrevocable. There really is no going back. It's a watershed moment. Lunar eclipses tend to be about endings, clearing the slate so something new can manifest and grow in your life. And so eclipse degrees are sensitive kind of portal points that are active for at least 6 months. And some astrologers will say active for much longer than 6 months. They actually are sensitized points for a couple of years after the eclipse. So the story keeps unfolding. And when planets transit those points, the needle of that story is rethreaded. And so Jupiter is transiting 1458 on September 23rd, again, 9:54 a.m. to be exact. Part of this story involves certainly the moon and Uranus and Mercury. So this is going to be an important date. In Earth, Jupiter is in Taurus, as the sun was, as Uranus and Mercury were for the eclipse itself. We have Earth, the material world, perhaps finances. Sometimes it's as literal as, the Earth itself. Sudden, huge messages and irrevocable endings. Now, it might not happen, something might not happen on the 23rd, itself, although it might. It could be a few days leading up, it could be a few days afterwards. But that point, that sensitive portal point, is going to be poked on the 23rd by Jupiter, which has a tendency, as we know and as we've seen, to really inflate things. And there's no way, I can't prepare for this. We can't really prepare for this. And part of that is because of the Uranian effect. It brings surprises. You're looking over here, and what happens is over here. It's what you least expect, and it's sudden. And you can't prepare for things like that, except perhaps psychologically. Also, a little bit later in the day, Jupiter is in a grand Earth trine. So this is happening on September 23rd at 3:11 p.m. And it's a grand Earth trine with Jupiter in Taurus down here at almost exactly the eclipse degree. 1 minute off. Again, Jupiter is retrograde. The moon, 1457, Capricorn. The moon in Capricorn is a moon that acts with integrity, that likes to do practical, helpful things. It's feminine and earth, where the moon operates fairly well. And Mercury is up here in Virgo, where it is very, very strong. So it is in this delicious grand earth trine. Now, trines allow for smooth flow of energies, but as I've said before, they don't promise anything. You really have to work the trine. But if you do, the flow is there. I see this as being a time of big ideas meets practical needs, the ability to plan, Mercury, your vision. It's an excellent time for organizing the things in your life that need to be organized so that your big ideas can manifest. This would be a wonderful day for writing and communicating effectively and with integrity. It's a time of dreaming big and having the substance to support that dream, the material resources, the clear thinking, your ducks are in a row, you're set up for success in a very tangible way. And so again, this is on the first day of fall, and it's a special day this week. So to recap, Jupiter is a big player this week, involved in a T-square involving the moon and Venus as well on the 19th. The sun enters Libra and fall begins in the northern hemisphere. We have that beautiful point of balance between light and dark. And then Jupiter is going to be hitting the lunar eclipse degree of May 5th. That's going to be happening on September 23rd. And there's also a grand earth trine with Jupiter on the 23rd as well, with the moon and Mercury. So those are the astro highlights this week. I hope you're really able to take advantage and work that earthly trine. We have certainly earned it after all of the retrograde and squares going on with Venus and Jupiter. It's been very difficult. But before I leave, I want to remind you to contact me with your relationship question. It can be any sort of relationship as well. It does not have to be romantic. It can be a business relationship. It can be a family relationship, a friendship. At Angela Alston Astrology at gmail.com. And please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will be with you in spirit always. And if you need a horary reading or a natal reading, I am here for you as well. Angela Alston Astrology at gmail.com.